B-boy. From the old to the new, still a B-boy. Too bold for the school, still a B-boy. East coast to the west, B-boys worldwide. We supposed to be blessed, still a B-boy.
This week, we are heading to Long Island to discuss one of hip-hop's most classic duos. They arrived right in hip-hop's golden age. Erick Sermon, Parrish Smith hit the scene and turned beats and rhymes into a business. This week, Erick and Parrish making dollars, EPMD, top 10 songs. Joining me, as always, Raven Hunter and Surreal the MC. All right, let's do this. I will start it as always, and we are going to the year 1990. The album is Business as Usual, dope album cover. And I'm going with Brothers on My Jock. Now, I was back and forth between this song and Hardcore, and this one just kind of won out. Both have early versions of Redman, and this song just edged it out for the beat. I like this beat a little bit more. And one thing I realized when going through all the EPMD albums is how many classic samples Erick did back in the day that other rappers used after him. Like
I
this,
noticed that too, yeah.
Yeah, this sample Ghostface Killah used in Daytona 500. There was so many beats where I'm like, oh shit, this guy used that after him. This guy used that after him. And I really found that fascinating by listening to everything in order. But I love this beat. I like the Ghostface one too, which is the same sample. And it's a simple but effective hook. It's just dope. And it introduced Redman to the world. So it's another important moment. So that was my number 10, Brothers on My Jock. Raven, what's your number 10?
I went to Business Never Personal. I think that was from 1992, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
It's just a song kind of crossover. It's just a song kind of talking shit about other rappers who kind of jump over into that pop music and just try to make money off of rap. I love the beat. I like the whole context of the song. Always has been high up on my list. This one and Hardcore actually jumped back and forth a lot, but it ended up going with crossover.
Yeah, and that was a single too. I can picture the maxi single cover even. That was
Yeah,
one
it
of
had the like Ghostbuster symbol.
Right. No, crossover is a good one. It didn't make my honorable mentions, which is surprising. Maybe it didn't age well to my ears, but it's a classic EPMD song, so you can't argue with it. Surreal, number 10.
All right, number 10, off Business as Usual. My number 10 is Rampage with LL Cool J. Dope video, dope single, and the scratches, DJ Scratch. I mean, just like lyrically. I remember kind of like this will come up in a couple songs I picked, like the F word, not fuck, but you know, the FA, like coming up a couple times in songs. In you know, I don't want to get too much into that. That's not what the podcast is about. But that's one of the things I'm always kind of like, I don't know. But it was used more as like a diss, not in a homophobic slur way, but more like a diss to MCs. But that was one of the things that kind of always made me kind of turn my head like, but Rampage with LL Cool J, beat, rhymes, you know, the video, Yo MTV Raps used to play the video all the time, and the scratches, killer on it.
That was an honorable mention. And at the time there was, this was their first album on Def Jam, I believe. So I don't know if that's how they got the LL feature, but there wasn't a lot of features in that era. All right. Yeah, that was an honorable mention. Rampage. Dope scratching. I'll talk about some scratching in some other songs too. Kind of underrated DJ there. But we are to 9, and I'm taking us to 1988, their classic debut, Strictly Business. And I'm going with It's My Thing. This is a definition of a classic debut. If we ever do a top 10 debut albums, this will be fighting for that list for me. Parrish not only had that MC's MC type vibe, and Erick had this unique flow. I almost call it a lazy flow, but not in a dissing way. Especially in the beginning, he just had this like real lazy type flow, but it worked. And it's another sample Erick used for the first time that was later used by Jay-Z on that Foxy Brown song, Ain't No. And it's just so many songs like that, like I said before, where it's like, oh shit, he sampled this first and all these other people used it. So It's My Thing was always kind of a personal one. I always really liked that one. Off a classic debut, which we will talk more about later. That's my number 9. Raven, what's yours?
Well, speaking of dope scratching, I went to 1989's Unfinished Business for I think it was the first single. So what you're saying, I want to
Mm-hmm.
say it was the first single.
I think
I
so.
love that beat. It's a really fun song. And it had some really, really dope scratching in it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, got the
Look at
vinyl
that.
back there.
Look at that.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that fucking song. It was always, I think, a little underrated. Being a single and everything, I still don't think it got the play it really deserved.
No, if you ask people to start naming EPMD songs, the vast majority won't start naming that, even though it was a single. And you're right, dope scratching. Number 9, Surreal.
So number 9, EPMD, off the Strictly Business album, the title track, Strictly Business. Yeah, I mean, I was in the EPMD early on. In fact, I remember they had a different spelling before. They like, I don't know if it's your thing. Like a couple of their first singles was
Yep.
EEPMD.
Yep.
And I had a couple of them, like when they were on Sleeping Bag Records, and the first 2 albums got re-released on Priority. But I think you were right. The third one was
Def
the
Jam.
first album on Def Jam. But anyway, yeah, Strictly Business. The samples. Once again, the samples are killing it.
And when people say think of funk samples, you automatically think West Coast, and for good reason. But Sermon was doing this in the 80s already
Yeah, he had the
in New
James
York.
Brown and the George Clinton on lock
Yeah, all
way back.
sorts of
Yeah,
dope
he
funk
did.
samples, no doubt about it. I love that first album. All right, number 8. I'm going to 92's Business Never Personal, the last album before they broke up the first time. And I'm going with It's Going Down. It's also on the Juice soundtrack. And I don't know why I always liked this song so much. If it was because I had heard it so much in Juice, I can't really put my finger on it. This song always really gets me. It's Going Down. And there's really no other reason I can really come up with why I like it and it makes my list. I just always liked it for some reason. It definitely has that 92 New York vibe, beats and lyrics, just some straight East Coast hip hop. And I really had nothing else to say about it. It's on a Juice soundtrack that's going down. That was also on this album. So that was my number 8. Number 8 for you, Raven.
Number 8 for me was from 1990's Business as Usual, which I learned while redoing this. That's my favorite album from them. Like, I like every song on that album.
Mm-hmm.
It's got that same gritty vibe I like from a lot of that era of hip hop. But I went with Brothers on My Jock with Redman, just because it's a very dope song. Redman is always dope, and he always has been.
Yep.
I just had a lot of love for him when we did that podcast, and I had an opportunity to fit him in, so I had to go with Brothers on My Jog. It's just a real dope and just fun, hard song.
And you can tell, I noticed listening to it, like that's Redman. It's like you can tell it's Redman, but he hadn't totally developed into his more exaggerated type voice. But yeah, Redman's been dope from the beginning. I mean, what a great draft pick Erick Sermon made when he found Redman. Brothers on My Jock, number 8, Surreal.
Same album, Business as Usual, but I went with Gots to Give the People. Yeah.
Yeah.
The OJ sample,
Yeah,
Give the People. It was a video too on Yo Raps in the box and all them back then. Not as well known as some of their other singles, but Gots to Give the People. Oh man,
Dope
I liked it
sample.
back then, but that one like it holds up. Like I like it a lot. I was listening to it just today. I made this list right when you told me about the show, but then I went back through it today. I was like, sick.
Well, this was more proof about how great of a producer Erick Sermon. I mean, he was from the beginning and kept it up all those, for decades. Erick Sermon, one of the best producers ever. If anyone disagrees, I'll fight him. E
hmm
double is the shit, and he was proving it at the beginning. We are already to 7, and I'm just doing different albums every pick. It looks like. I'm going to 1997's Back in Business. EPMD gets back together. I'm like, oh shit. Erick and Parrish are getting back together. I'm excited, but I'm a little nervous. Will it work? PMD's career kind of, and Erick's stock rose. How will it work? But I think it worked. I really liked that record when it came out. I still liked it. Anyways, I'm going with the posse track, Kim. Now, this isn't higher, because the dopest parts are probably the non-EPMD verses, probably Redman and Keith Murray. All four kill it, but come on, Keith Murray destroys that shit. And I will always just like rap along hard as hell to Keith Murray destroying that song. It gets me so hype. The beat is amazing. Yeah, I just again, Keith Murray's verse, shit. That's my note. Keith Murray destroys it. I love dope posse tracks. And so it had to get on there. Number 7, Raven, what's yours?
I'm from the same album, 97's Back in Business. I went with The Joint. It was co-produced by Raw Wilder, and I just think it's a real fun, dope song. I love the flow, and I love Erick Sermon. This is like the late 90s is my favorite era of Erick's rapping because he finally found his flow to where his sound matched his beats, and it's weird to explain, but that's how I always saw it. Like in the older shit he was producing, he just didn't sound as into it as he did in the later 90s. But yeah, I went with The Joint. That's just a real dope song.
You're right. I always thought, kind of like I said, Eric kind of had that lazy flow. And his first solo one, No Pressure, which I love, he kind of has the EPMD flow, but on that second one, which had like Bob Diggy and all those, I think that's when he really started to find a flow that worked with his production. So I totally agree with that. Then when he started, just kept going to the React and the music, man, that sample from that song Music, the Marvin Gaye sample, God damn, what an amazing
Wait a minute.
beat.
Here, don't. That's for another
That's
show.
for another show. Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah. I'm sure that'll make a list. Surreal. What's your number 7?
Number 7, I might get. Yeah, this probably be argued with from Strictly Business. You got to chill. Like I said, I was an EPMD fan from way early days. That's one of the best hip hop songs ever. But when I was going throughout their discography, and there's a Jane on almost all the albums. There's Business in the title of all the albums. They have those things that are kind of their niche. And You Got to Chill is up there on the all-time hip-hop songs, but in my personal favorite, it's my number 7. Amazing song. I just got a few other joints that are higher than it to me personally.
And let's talk about how the Business titles, I mean, that was clever as hell too. I'm sure it was talked about in some interview that I don't remember, but I always wondered at what point did they say, oh, now we got to make this next one Business in the title. You know what I mean? Was it a thought from the beginning with Strictly Business that they were going to go that way, or did it just kind of evolve? I'll have to ask that when Erick and Parrish on the podcast. Number 7, I got to chill. You got to chill. All right, number 6. 1989's Unfinished Business. And look at the dope Sleeping Bag Records gear you could order in this. I was peeping out like, oh shit, I should have ordered some of that. But I'm going with the song. Please listen to my demo. It's not only a classic EPMD song, I think this is a classic hip hop song too, because it was storytelling. And this kind of story up to this point hadn't really been told. The going out there trying to make it, all the steps they made to get signed. And every MC and musician, knows what it's like trying to get your music out there. And plus, famously, maybe even more famous than the actual song, is in 2001, a group called Rearrange remade this song on their second album. I played Erick Sermon. But I know a lot of EPMD fans think this is their best record. And I kind of thought that ahead of time, or before I did this. And now I'm leaning more towards Strictly. But those first 3 are amazing. And I love Please Listen to My Demo because it's storytelling. So that was my number 6. What about you, Raven?
Number 6, I go back to my favorite Business as Usual for the song I'm Mad. It's a killer opening track to
Oh yeah,
good
track
album.
1. That is a good one.
Like it opens that album perfect, and then the whole album rides that vibe. So I'm Mad had to make my list. It was a little higher than I would have probably expected early on, but like I said, that album quickly became my favorite from them.
There's no doubt it's a dope album. I was amazed how well some of this aged when I listened to it all at once. Surreal, number 6.
Number 6, I'm going to get crucified again from Unfinished Business. My number 6 is So What You Saying. I know, once again, that's super high on people's all-time everybody list of groups. I do need to add that a couple years ago, I saw EPMD live in concert with Greg Nice, and so that kind of like I grew up with a lot of these songs, but when I seen them, it kind of made me appreciate some of the stuff in a different light. But So What You Saying, number 6, that seems low, but I just really, really, really love some of the other songs.
Number 5, 1992's Business Never Personal, which kind of from the first 4 is still my least favorite, I think. But I'm going with the song Headbanger. This is definition of New York hip hop of this era. It's just raw, rugged, hardcore rap. It's almost like they recorded it in a street alley with stray cats running around and people shooting dice. It's just that gritty song. And it's another dope posse track. You get Redman again and K Solo, who does not get enough love when looking back at hip hop history. K Solo was the shit. Such an amazing rapper, and he doesn't get brought up enough. I mean, and he kills it. K Solo always killed it. I hate that more people don't know his name when they're talking about
Agreed.
This era of hip hop.
Fugitive, like Fugitive is one of my favorite songs ever.
Oh yeah.
The first couple K Solo albums were super dope. But no, Headbanger. That was my number 5 dope posse track. Raven, number 5.
Number 5. So apparently I forgot to write which album this was on, and I don't recall some of their later stuff. But Symphony 2000 with Method Man, Redman, and Lady Luck. I know it was on one of the later.
Out of Business, yeah.
Okay, Out of Business, yeah. That was produced by Erick Sermon. And I mean, who doesn't love the strings in that beat? I've always loved that beat. I'm pretty sure I freestyled and had tracks to that beat back in the day, from the instrumentals on the single. But every verse bangs. At that era, Redman and Method Man were kind of firing at their best with each other. So I had to go with Symphony.
That was an honorable mention. That was my only honorable mention off that record. And then they even did a record after Out of Business, which I had forgotten about until while I was doing this. I completely blocked that from my mind, and I don't know why. But yeah, that's a great posse track. Talk about posse track. Number 5, Surreal.
From Business as Usual, Gold Digger. Classic video. Once again, the scratches, the samples, like, yeah, I mean, I could go on and on and on, but my number 5, Gold Digger.
Great storytelling also. No, that's a good one. That was an honorable mention as well, crossover. All right, we are already to 4. And I'm going to 1990s Business as Usual, which is Raven's favorite EPMD album. And you know what? I'm mad. I'm going with I'm Mad. Like you said, great way to start off an album, which is always important to me. They both flow so damn good and destroy this beat. This might be the dopest they've ever rhymed. They both are just so on point. Like I said before, first album on Def Jam, just a dope beat. My heart almost wanted it higher because I always jam out to this. But it got knocked down to number 4. I'm mad. That's my number 4, Raven. What's yours?
Actually, surprising myself, another song from 1999's Out of Business. I went with Pioneers.
I think that's like the first track.
Yeah, I love the beat. It gave me that instant, like, why I loved EPMD in the first place. The way they flow, and it's one of the few standouts on that album, in my opinion. But Pioneers, definitely that song I could listen to on repeat.
That and like the Symphony were the 2 highlights of that album, no doubt about it.
That's about it, yeah.
Yeah, that was all right. Number 4, Surreal.
My number 4 is from Business Never Personal, Headbanger. The beat, like it has that like rock rap kind of energy feel, like a Gravediggers or Onyx song with K Solo, Redman. We already went through the details, but Headbanger is my number 4.
Yeah, just
definitely a song you play on repeat.
Oh yeah, I mean, just even the vibe of the hook, the Headbanger. I mean, it is. It's like an Onyx type vibe. That's why I just picture being in an alley with fucking Timberlands on and shit in winter. So we made it to the top 3 already, and I am going to 1989's unfinished business. So what you saying? You guys both had it. It was number 3 on my list. I'm mad in this, kept going back and forth between 3 and 4, and this is where this fell. And I edged it out over I'm mad because of the iconic beat and sample. And it's also full of classic lines that other MCs said or were used in scratches, like MCs are jumping out their shoes and socks, and brothers
Yeah.
on my jock for the way I hold my piece of steel. I think it was a Wu-Tang member who used that in some song, sampled that. And here I have it. DJ Scratch just kills the hook. Just is going crazy on those
Yeah.
fucking ones and twos, just destroys it. So that got it over on Mad for me. So what you saying? Dope song, always loved it. That's why I still got my vinyl from back in the day of the single. That was my number 3, Raven. What about you?
Number 3, I went with Headbanger from Business Never Personal. It's such a dope song. K Solo and Redman both kill it. Erick kills that shit. He produced that. That beat is fucking hard as shit. Yeah, that was a standout. That beat and just the hard ass verse. Every verse is just tough as shit.
It is. And I'm glad it made all of our lists. It's just such a dope fucking song. Surreal. What's number 3 on your top 3?
Oh man, number 3 on mine. I got this CD as a gift from the gal I was dating back in like 97 or whatever, when Back in Business came out. But Richter Scale.
Rick the Scale.
Yeah, the beat alone. I mean, everything. Like, I don't even think that one was a single. It doesn't really matter, but that I don't know there's songs you'll bob your head to, and there's songs you'll sing along to, but then there's those songs. There's a few songs of all the music you listen to, where every time you hear it, you kind of like smile, like it puts you in a different realm. That's one of them. It's just the way it's sonically put together. It's amazing. Richter Scale. It's actually, and I always thought that was a female sampler, that the moaning, but it's average white band, that 70s funk band. It's not. I looked it up and I was wrong. I'm not to be cocky. I'm pretty spot on hearing samples.
Right.
And just, through all the years of digging in the crates and at least knowing what band, like if it's Ohio Players or War or whoever, I might not always know the record, but I know the band. But like that one completely threw me for a loop.
We're not the only one who loves it. It made my honorable mention and it flirted with 10. Because you're right. It's catchy as hell. Rick the Scale, it gets in my head just talking about it.
Yeah.
But I'll stay at that album with my number 2. 1997's Back in Business, their reunion album. And I'm going with The Joint. God damn, does this song just hit me and put me in a good mood. I mean, I could have the worst day. If I hear The Joint, I'm going to be like, da 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 is The Joint. My mom just died and this song would make me start singing along. It's like impossible not. I guess I shouldn't have put that out in the universe. My mom died. I'm sorry, Mom. But it's impossible not to sing this hook. And it's a simple hook, but it just works. And even screaming out the different cities,
New York is in the area.
Yeah, check it over here. Yeah. I mean, that type of thing has been done in 500 hip hop songs, but it still works so well. They just did it so good. And from the very beginning, I make $1 million, and then the beat
every
is
6
every
months.
6 months. And it just gets you right away. I fucking love this song. And I mean, it was hard not to put it at 1 because this might be the song that gives me the most hype, EPMD. And this was the first song I heard from the reunion one. So it was like my fear kind of melted away. Like, all right, it's going to be dope. It won't be a train wreck. So The Joint was my number 2. What about you, Raven?
I'm glad that made someone else's list. That's a great song. Number 2 for me, 1990s Business as Usual. I had to put Rampage with my man LL on here. It's such a dope ass beat. The lyrics are hard as shit. I love LL Cool J in every verse, pretty much that he gets featured on back in the early 90s was definitely going to be gold. So anything with LL was going to make my list. Just a dope beat EPMD put together, and Rampage gets me hyped.
Number 2, Surreal.
My number 2 is Crossover from Business Never Personal. The single went gold. The whole album is amazing, but I know it's the beat's a little lighter than a lot of their stuff, but it's just amazing. If you go back and listen to it, it's really, really well put together from a songwriting standpoint.
It is a different sounding beat. And I almost always thought there was a little tint of that era's like New Jack Swing type in it. Not all the way like a Rex Effect, but it's just a little bit lighter tinge to it. But yeah, crossover, that was an honorable mention. Which brings us to number one. I couldn't, as a true hip hop head for the majority of my life, I could not do EPMD and not have number one be You Got to Chill. It had to be number one to me. When I think EPMD, I think You Got to Chill. And the beat where he mixes Jungle Boogie by Kool and the Gang and Zapp's More Bounce to the Ounce, two famous samples, and he mixed them just perfectly and flawlessly. And we hear both of those samples used many times by other artists, but he takes them both and just creates a masterpiece. One of the best producers in history. And they both flow. They still sound like hungry MCs. Just some true B-boy music. You say EPMD, I say You Got to Chill. It's my heart talking, but You Got to Chill has to be number one. Raven, what's number one on your list?
So when I was doing this list, I had to really think about what number one was going to be, and from what I would consider an essential song to hip hop history, it would be You Got to Chill. The beat is so iconic. There's so many lines in this song that get sampled by so many different artists. Right. It had an effect on the entire industry when this song came out. So I couldn't put it anywhere but number one.
Surreal, you're back.
Where are we?
We're up to you. What's your number one?
Number one, sorry. No. Technical difficulties. All right, my number one from back in biz, The Joint. Brought it up. Yeah. Flawless song, flawless track. They got a lot of iconic joints, but the Joint literally is my number one. Beats, scratches, the License to Ill scratch, everything. It's flawless. And it's mastered really good. It sounds really good, like sonically.
Right. I'm glad it made everyone's list. I was kind of surprised. I was thinking, maybe no one would pick this, but it always gets me. Oof. Such a dope song. Before I do honorable mentions, I wanted to say, why didn't PMD have the success solo that Erick did? Was it just a production? Erick had his production to fall back on? Because when EPMD first started, everyone looked at PMD as the lyrical one, and in some ways he was. But, he put out that Shady Business was his first solo one, and I mean, it was all right, but then he just totally
I never liked it, really any of his.
Yeah, why didn't he work with Erick? Was it production? Was it just
I think the production had a lot to do with it. Maybe Erick helped him write some of his shit when they were working together. I don't know, but maybe he's just needed Erick's touch on the album to sound like he should.
Yeah.
I always peeped all the solos and DOS Effects and Def Squad and I always peeped everything.
Right.
Same.
Yeah, I always checked it out. After Shady Business, he had one. I don't remember the name, but he's looking out of a window that was a broken window, and it was just disappointing. He just isn't the same without Erick, it seems. But honorable mentions. I can't believe nobody had You're a Customer on their list from Strictly Business, and Knick Knack Paddywhack, dope posse track that most people know as the sample from California Love. Get to Bozak, Hardcore. I'm surprised no one had Hardcore. Boondocks, and Never Seen Before from the Back End Business. Those were the ones that no one hit that I thought deserved the honorable mention. Anything we are missing?
Hardcore and It's My Thing were my two honorables that I just had to mention.
Right. Yeah, Hardcore is dope. It was hard not to get that on there, no doubt about it. Have a good one. Peace.
Appreciate you.
A B-boy, from the old to the new, still a B-boy. Too bold for the school, still a B-boy. East Coast to the West, B-boys worldwide, we supposed to be blessed. Still a B-boy, from the old to the new, still a B-boy. Too bold for the school, still a B-boy. East Coast to the